I got a little bit into that last video, actually forgetting that we're going to do a solenoid today. So I'm just going to take this cube, delete it. We're going to Shift A, add a plane, press 1, look at it from front view, and we're just going to go ahead and bisect this thing. So Hops actually has a bisect feature where if you shift click bisect, it'll turn yellow, and that means whenever you click it, it'll bisect it in half. So whenever it comes to analyzing what the workflow for this has become, I do feel that it is definitely improved on the solenoid front. So hopefully you guys are actually having fun getting in here modeling solenoids, even though Hops is ever so changing, because I never intended this to be the final version of an idea, literally just an iteration of an idea over the course of us attempting to perfect it. So Hops is never a finished product. So right here, what I did was I selected a vert and then control clicked mark, which will actually bevel a single vert, and we'll just bevel that. And if we press Alt V and take a look at this, this is what we got on our wireframe. If we press Alt V again, we can look at our face orientation. This is what we have here. So far so good. We can actually control click bevel to add another bevel, which we can have just work this top here. However, the resolution here isn't really the best. And solenoids aren't really supposed to be a difficult thing. They're supposed to be kind of a tool test. Previously I had people testing with cubes. I felt solenoids were like the next level in testing. We'll keep wireframe on just so we can talk about it for a moment. And one of the first things I want to talk about is topological control. We could actually get things under control by just adding a decimate modifier, but that's only a limited type of solution. I mean, the next thing after that would be to use a modifier mirror and actually mirror it to the bottom, and then we have this control line right here. But let's actually undo that. So I am a big fan of actually controlling things using other geometry, because you can force geometry into other geometry on the boolean. You can cut UVs into things, you can cut materials into things. So right here I took this cube, moved it out, used control numpad minus to boolean it in, and now we have this cube. So if I were to put an edge loop in the middle, now you can see that edge loop is cut into the cube. And so we'll use these edge loops going forward to just kind of simplify our work and just make it easier for us. That's a little bit easier than the previous workflows that were shown. But doing these solenoids over and over has kind of shown me quite a bit, as far as right here, I'm going to press Q and control shift click in order to add an additional bevel, but I'll press X to drop it at half. And so while we're talking about this, we're now cutting at a different level of bevel than the previous levels. So let's just test that out. We'll bring in this cube, and keep in mind that while this is kind of a non-destructive workflow, it isn't really a non-destructive workflow like in the sense of the word, because adjusting things is really not optimal. And I think a lot of people came into this kind of expecting to be able to do that sort of stuff, and that sort of stuff just isn't possible in Blender itself at this time. It will probably be at some point in the future. Right here I see that due to the level of bevel that I'm trying to deal with here and the detail that I'm trying to cut in here, that it'd actually probably be best if I bring up the end panel and under the hardops panel just remove that last level of bevel, which is right here. And so if we do another cut, it will actually be promoted to this level. So just to show that in action, we actually just went in and deleted a bevel modifier, and you can see my stack here as I'm goofing off, and you can see that every level of boolean that was pending at that point has been promoted to the previous level as a result of us deleting it. So sorry to quote Toast of London, but it's not rocket science. Just kidding. But I'm not trying to create a tool that's like mysterious and hard to use. Our goal is definitely simplicity. So every comment that I receive on things being difficult or it being hard to use and stuff like that are things that I take very seriously, because if you're not experiencing the trips to Box City the way that we intend, then there's some sort of shortcoming here, and I've become better at identifying what those things come down to, whether it's compatibility between us and other tools, or differences in workflow or configuration or whatever it is. But I'm pretty committed towards ensuring that we find a solution for everyone in order to help them get the most out of Blender and our tool. we've become kind of aware that hardops has become a bit of a textbook for people on the way into Blender. So we definitely want to ensure that we facilitate the best journey. So a lot of the changes with hops are me trying to ensure that hops is in the best shape it can be for new users who are just becoming acquainted with Blender itself, or just finding out for themselves if 3D modeling is something they want to do. You know, the most discouraging thing I could possibly hear is, hey, I was checking out CG and your tool's complexity made me not want to do CG, which is absolutely just terrible. That's like the opposite of what we're ever going for. So right here, I'm going to press Shift S and snap my cursor here, and I'm going to use my buddy 2 plane, which right here we have it there. We will just make the 2 plane here, and let's also decide to make that a solid, and we'll just bevel that in 2D. And then, you know, before we actually begin doing things, let's first visual geometry to mesh. Let's use bisect. Bisect's still on, you know, AR. You should clean that up if you're watching this video. Bisect's supposed to be a one-time use operation, not supposed to lock out bisect, but the more and more that I use it, the less I'm opposed to the idea. But bisect is just one of those things that if you're a pro level user, you definitely understand its usage and its application properly in the Boolean workflow. But if not, I would just steer clear of it and use modifier and just maintain having a manifold mesh at all times, and that should help you get the most out of the Boolean experience. So right here I have this curve that I made, or this mesh that I just curved. I'm actually going to put a sub D on it, and then under operations we'll just click smart apply, and we'll just smart apply, just bring this piece in here, and I can see that I actually moved this to the wrong collection, so we need to put this on the correct collection. And little hooks just are just always a fun time. So I'm going to Shift D duplicate this, and we're just going to shift click smart apply in order to just quickly apply this. And I'll press Control I to get rid of all those faces. And you know, this thing's pretty mirrored, so we're just going to start cutting off some of these nubs because they're just going to become hard to deal with as far as inset goes. And so let's go ahead and use symmetrize because we're just wanting a one and done mirror solution. And we'll press I in order to inset this thing. So if anyone's actually watching this and wondering what am I listening to as I'm talking to you guys, there's this band Palm 84. I am just hooked. Can't stop listening to them. It's actually why I haven't been doing any videos. I'm just actually addicted to Palm 84. Like, their music is just so great. Like, I'm having this deep internal struggle on if I should use them for the next ad, but I just cannot get over just the level of awesomeness in their music. Right here, I'm gonna need to symmetrize this again because I, you know, did a mesh edit. And maybe even before all of this, you know, I was actually going to start doing some knife tool and removing stuff, but that's caveman. Let's select this, difference, and of course it's not going to work out. The bevel is a cruel auditor. And so as you get closer and closer in detail, you have to shrink that thing. I've been debating on if I should tell Howard that, you know, bevel should have a weld on it. You know, weld works so good everywhere else. If bevel started welding for the clamp overlap to just help it out by default, it would take it further. However, I do fear that these things aren't facilitating the speed aspect of Blender. It may be making things worse. So I'm hesitant. I'd rather see the viewport speed up than anything else at this time. But, you know, we make it pretty fine here. I had some previous videos where I was talking about the situation that was going on with the AMD. And I think at this point, post-mortem, I think I kind of understand what's going on with it. I had a talk with another one of my friends, and he was telling me that, you know, they have a problem with memory or something. And so every time I get on the computer, I just can't help but notice that all the memory is 1200 megahertz. And originally, before this whole fiasco, I didn't know what that meant, but I actually found out that that means that the memory is just hella slow and that the computer's hella slow. And so when I got on it and it would be choking, it would be because of this memory thing. So I mean, the processor's probably fine, and they're saying, hey, you nuke Windows, we can find out, you know. And I'm like, you know, if that's the thing, I don't want to even nuke Windows. See, the thing is that I don't nuke Windows for fun. You know, I set up my life on a computer. I start installing Blender, start setting up my Dropbox, start setting up all my configurations, start setting up all my documentation and screen capping and just workflow for living. And I'm not trying to really erase that and put it back. So I've been looking at like getting some sort of network drive to start backing things up on the cloud. I mean, not the cloud because you can't trust anything online, but something in-house. But the thing about that AMD computer in retrospect is, you know, now that I'm not using it, that thing is the greatest render computer ever. So much that I want to like do some stuff about making like an in-house render farm, because I have that computer and then I have this other computer on top of that's sitting on top of that also failed me once ago and has now been fully repaired. So it's got all these computers capable of rendering. So pretty soon I'll be showing y'all some of the things that I've been doing with all this additional computing power. But I feel like at this one moment in time, finally, I'm actually getting my worth out of the Threadripper. So you've probably been watching me just destroy this cube. Like, hey, what is this guy gonna do? Some of you guys in the audience, you know, you're already holding up signs. You're like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. And yes, you're right. I'm gonna Control A, Visual Geometry to Mesh, Mesh Tools, Dice, and we're just gonna dice that thing. And dice worked out. And then we're going to twist 360 and let's roll it in. Is this the type of twist action that we want? And so we press Alt G and rotate it twice, and we can actually go back into twist 360, press D, and begin modifying the displacement amount. And with that, we've put a really interesting frill on our Frillinoid, guys. Hashtag, just kidding. I'm not John Oliver. Just making up hashtags every video. Keep it hops, please. I love seeing everyone use the hops hashtag, especially when it's not a support issue. You know, when people are just like loving hops, you know, greatest stuff ever. It actually is used to motivate the team. So I'm going to select the back of the cylinder and we're just going to bring it out. So I apologize for the... Where did I go wrong? There we go. And the cool thing is we can just extract this and put it on the other side. I mean, we could mirror it, we could do all sorts of stuff, but we're probably going to get more random. I mean, we're just here chilling in this video, right, guys? Like, there's nothing else I actually have to do. I mean, there's a lot that I have to do, but sometimes you need to just take a break and make a video. So we're just going to bring this circle out after rotating it. And if you watched my previous Cyylinoid videos, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take these verts, remove them, grab these two, E, S, and we'll grab these hot little corners here and Control-Shift-B. We don't need to give them a lot of segments because we're going to hit it with Control-2, hit it with 2 levels of sub-D, and then Control-Click Smart Apply in order to just quickly turn that into a curve real quick. I actually was going to come in and make something a little bit more sensical, but I don't know. I just have too much fun making things that are just nonsense sometimes. So the cursor is selected, and also every time I deal with a job, they always want it based off of pictures. So in case you ever wonder why I don't do a lot of modeling reference image stuff, that's pretty much every 3D job ever is modeling 3D references or something to deal with references or remastering or something like that. Like, hey, make it look like this, or to show you a brief and it's pictures you recognize. So I like to keep it random and always be trying to think of something unique. So with this curve, we're just going to just insert a box, just a little happy box, Q. We'll shift click on this to use array, and array is real sensitive. I've been complaining about it a lot internally, and I hope to get something done about it. Everything is going to be undergoing massive changes, you guys. So I mean, if you have complaints now, you will definitely have complaints going forward, but you know, it'll definitely also be getting better, more congruent, more simplified, more consolidated. So, you know, there'll come a time where you may be looking at old tutorials. Why are you looking at old tutorials? And just notice that things have been simplified quite a bit. And a lot of it's based off of user feedback. Like anytime people begin a dialogue about a particular function or feature, that inspires us to, so right here, I want to put a bevel on this, but I need to apply to scale. In fact, let's go in local mode and let's apply to scale. You know, we're min here. Let's put a bevel on this and it's fine. So I don't know what's going on there. It was acting like it was about to freak out. I was about to get down and give you guys an explanation on something. But this latest update of hops was kind of minor. However, there's a lot that's going on under the hood, and there's a lot that's going on that's yet to be revealed. There's additional team members that we have never talked about that their work is still just being cooked, just so great, because we want it to be something that you guys will remember. You know, by investing in us and trusting in us to show you guys a good time. I want to show you guys the best time. So we'll shift click that, Alt X, mirror that to the other side. But we promised you with hops that you would be in for a good time. And so right here, bevel just decided to get me. I wonder why though, because I used it in local mode and it was fine. There it is being fine. This is grabbing in edit mode. And the thing is, I don't want to look at it like that in edit mode. I want to look at it like that in edit mode. So that way I can scale it and I wouldn't be trying to do it in object mode. So that's good and all. This thing's looking a bit transmissive, you know, like it could start a car with a good pull, you know. So continuing on, we're just going to RX, drop in a circle. And a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about in this video, I'm really excited for it. I just wanted to quickly get this stuff out there because the update was piling up. I really just wanted to get step fixed and get an update out for that, but it just turned into something more massive. Everybody just kept piling in things like, hey, I do got this and I got this, and then too plain, you know. It's like, you know, people should get acquainted with that before it becomes its final version, because the version that we have right now is kind of the utility backend version, but it was so well polished and nicely done by Bond 7 that it just had to go live in this update. When it comes to curves, I hope that you guys are you know, getting in there and playing with some curves. I'm actually going to roll this back so I can look at this shape here, and we're just going to bull shift it because I love bull shifting. These are things that we talk about a lot behind the scenes. Like AR thinks I don't use any of this stuff and that a lot of these ideas are just nonsense, but I'm like, dude, every idea that I've been pushing in these latest releases are things straight off the idea board. Rebull was something I had very near and dear, and when we lost it, it was taken as just a slight, and you know, I took great offense. It's like, how dare you? You know, Rebull was near and dear to me. You know, how could you take Rebull? Because there is no replacement, and that's one of my big policies, is that we can't remove something without replacement. I will, you know, lose my mind internally if we replace a feature with air, is what I call it. You know, if we replace a feature with air, you know, that's considered a failure, because there's a problem we were trying to solve, and by just removing it, we give up on that problem. So, you know, even though step, you know, I've been trying to really emphasize that step has been changed over the course of several versions to basically be taken over by other things and to become more of a formality instead of a system. That's why when you step, it's no longer going to turn blue. That's for bull shapes. Bull shapes are the only thing that's going to turn the logo color. So the S status system is something that I want to reevaluate and bring back in the future. In fact, AR presented a replacement idea for it today, which surprised me, especially with the amount of passion he showed for it. It's quite unusual for him. But I definitely think that we can do something better going forward. And so, I mean, when it comes to the menus, right now I'm just working on kind of the defaults of what will be this next version. However, I do want to have a customization system in place to just make it easier for users to set the cube menu to how they would want to be, and then maybe even dial it back to the way it was in previous tutorials. So this is something that I'm still plotting out. I mean, these things do take a little bit of time, especially because once I start throwing them to the coders, they're like, hey, this BS doesn't make any sense. You're wasting my time. And they start losing confidence. You really don't want those sort of situations happening. So, you know, you got to be confident in your plans. And that's why user input's important. The comments that I receive from you guys helps guide this product onto its conclusion. And so I do look forward to what y'all have to say about this next release and whether or not you enjoy it or if it goes down as one of the greats. However, to me, it's just a further iteration on the improvements that you had before. And so we'll just hit this with a blank material and just take a quick look at this and see what we got in the material lottery. And that material is kind of boring. So we'll give that one a blank material. What's with all these boring materials? All right, let's actually slap the principal a couple times. That one's good. Let's hit this with a blank material. And so the thing about blank material now is it does have a cleanup system where if there's materials in the background that are just not important, you can actually now remove them, which is very important because that was one of the things on the to-do list. I didn't remove the internal face on this piece here, so let's talk about that. So what I can do is just go and look at this in flat mode, do a box draw, and we'll just remove those faces and we'll just symmetrize to the other side, making that an open face, and now everything will merge correctly. So that's one of the things you definitely want to keep in mind when using dice. But dice is just one of those things, you know, we always create things and then there's like a massive thing around it, and then in the end it's just you know, one of our mainstays. So I'm pleased to say that dice is just one of the boys now. We just use it in passing, nothing fancy about it, no reason to revisit it, except that internally I will always say that dice is nothing like what I asked for, and I still want the version of dice that I asked for, which is more of a Python tool. So we may be still going towards that in the future. I do want to create a few additional tools of that style. However, we do have to kind of clean up hops a little bit more. So, you know, before we can expand, we must, you know, make sure that when people use our tools, they're not just blinded by menus and just scared of things, which is something that I saw as a popular comment, is that, you know, it's just menu mania, just too much hotkey. And so, I mean, everything's under Q. Even all the material stuff is under Q. You may have to go under mesh tools and use it there because, you know, you're supposed to be using Alt-M for that. But, and also Alt-M, I have so many ideas for it. I actually dropped a handful of tasks related to it today. I just love being able to click it and just choose a better material. I'm going to convert this to a mesh, and we're just going to draw a box around it and just cut that out. And, you know, we're just not going to talk about what happened there, all right? But, you know, the cool thing about this whole shape, but probably isn't going to work for us, but the goal is just to have a general chat here. So, you know, one of the things I talk about a lot internally is how I wish Boxcutter had a feature called True Extract. In fact, let's Alt-H. We're on Collection 1, so Alt-H only hides what's in Collection 1. Let's get rid of these two things. We won't need them. But a feature that I talk about requesting all the time is something called True Extract. And so part of Hops being a tool of workarounds and systems is that, you know, we're able to pick up the slack from things where Boxcutter isn't able to fill in. So just to demonstrate that in action, we'll control click and we'll just actually, we want to shift click to scroll through our modifiers. And actually, we didn't want to even do that. We want to just turn off bevel, the final bevel, and, you know, we will actually scroll it to here, and we're going to do an extraction. So I'm going to go to circle, we're going to turn on dots, and we're just going to draw a circle right here, press Y, And we'll just grab this dot here. Maybe press Control D, jump the segments up to 64. We want a good round one. And it's going to cut it exactly like that. And the thing about this is, you know, it doesn't catch with everything on it, but let's just jump to the cutters collection and take a look at what our extraction was, because I think it's a cool extraction. I mean, this edge in the middle, it's got to go. Is it connected to anything? All right, it's kind of it's connected to everything. It's an umbilical cord. So let's just grab all the stuff, delete it, and we're just using select loops, boundary loops. And if it doesn't select anything, that means your mesh is manifold. It's just one way I like to check. And so we're just looking at top view. You see that it's not a bad extraction, but it does need to be mirrored to the other side. So I just one and done mirrored it. But that's actually a good extraction there. So let's just go back to, you know, collection one, unhide everything, and let's test our luck. So I want to cut the entire other, you know, I was preparing to actually use this as a section of video to complain to Proxy and to get him to work on true extract, but I mean, come on, we're done here, guys. That's a, you know, I should go put on dinner now is what I should do, and shut my mouth, you know, is what Proxy's gonna say when he sees this part of the video. But in fact, okay, I'm just wanting to make sure that I'm not putting this in the wrong area. Let's turn on our numpad and excitedly rotate this thing into shape. Doesn't matter if it's exact, we're just having fun here. I mean, what is this thing really? What is it? But we're just having fun here. I mean, we can even duplicate this and just use something like Smart Apply and just drag this to the other side. I mean, you could get mad over these little quills in it, but I'm just going to use Control M X, Control M Y, just to mirror on X and Y using Blender's mirror. Sometimes it works, you know. So we'll just maybe that piece didn't go there. No, these pieces totally went there. What am I talking about? Sorry. Oh wait, the scale was different because I made them as a custom mesh. Sorry. I was just wondering why I was suddenly dealing with this conundrum. So Control M Z Y. So we'll put them in here. And for this, you know, we'd have to probably get a little bit more creative. But, you know, we're just having fun here. In fact, let's press Q and we're just going to two box this. We're going to press Q and two box. And I've actually never seen that particular bug happen. So I'll be checking into that after this video. But in the meantime, we're just going to sharpen this cylinder with subdivision, and that will give us the form of our cylinder, and we'll use that to slice this. So slash, and this piece que vamanos. A little Spanish for you today, Master Xeon, Spanish instructor. And now we have our other side set up. So that will wrap up our demonstration of the solenoid today. So if we want to continue to have fun, we can duplicate this, Control A, visual geometry to mesh. We'll just grab this loop, Control plus to just grow this thing. We'll Control I and just delete those vertices, and Q modifiers. I like to actually press S when I'm hovering over this menu to just jump into solidify. And we'll press R to make it only rim, and that will allow us to bevel it good and nice. And whenever the bevel's not working out, A, just press A. That's what it's for, and it'll make things all right. So now we can actually select this, give it a blank material. You know, if we look at it rendered, we can see what it is. That's actually a pretty good blank material right there. So I'm liking what I'm seeing. Of course, if we go into render, we get something like this. And this is really the result of what we're modeling here. So I'm going to select this piece, and we're just going to control click on bevel to just add a bevel. I'll press 1 to just kind of set the bevel to the profile of 1, which is a profile of 0.5, and it's basically default bevel. So if you're using a bevel and you don't want the default profile that we have set of 0.7, just press 1, it'll just jump it to 0.5, which will make shading issues a little bit more apparent. That's why we dealt with 0.7 for so long. But all clicking sharpen will actually put a weighted normal on it and get you a nice looking result again. And so for me, if it doesn't have a bevel, you know, are we really really using hardops here? So, you know, I just love beveling. It's my favorite next to subdivision. So here we are with our little piece here. And so we can actually call this collection quick part. And let's actually look at what we have here. So 1, we press Alt H, and there's no rubbish here. So everything in this collection is literally this object. So we'll collapse our cutters collection too, and we'll make a new collection. We'll just call this one SCN. You know me, old habits die hard. I had to deal with SCNs for a whole year, and so now I'm just used to making SCN. So we're just gonna insert our quick part here, duplicate it over, duplicate over here, RX90, and we're just stacking these things up, just going for a fun little result here. Nothing serious. Of course, it's up to you to get more creative with this, but just wanted to do a new spin on the solenoids. Get what I did there? People come to me for all your terrible humor. Not that F Jerry guy. You know, I don't follow him. Mainly because that's my name. I take great insult at expletives and my name being page titles. So just continuing on here, just rotating this stuff into place. Maybe scale this one down. Really no art to this. I mean, if we wanted to do it right, we would just put cylinders around it and just let these fall, and that would do it, which is actually what I should have done. Just have some fun. Instead, I'm doing it in a way that's kind of no fun. But, you know, whatever. We'll make this work. And the camera will be moving so fast, it'll be like Speed 4 without Keanu Reeves. Wait, no, he wasn't Speed. Alright, so with these pieces selected, we'll press Q, and we can see that here we have our empty options, which is just inappropriate for this. So in order to do this, what I'll have to do is actually go to the layer with my part and then go to layer 1 without anything selected, and I can add a camera. So that's kind of weird, and I'll actually be checking into that afterwards. But normally the Q menu is based off of our selection, and I could see a case of it failing right there. So with our empty select, I'm actually going to just move that up. And because there's no camera in the scene, it actually set this to be our active camera. So if I just grab this, move it back, we now have a render going of our little parts here with a nice little glow. So I'm going to Shift A, and from here, I've actually been making stages out of spheres. Not the greatest plan. In fact, I realized I shouldn't even be using UV spheres just now. I should be pressing Q, going under mesh tools, using sphere cast, and then scaling these suckers up. But before that, I need to apply, and then move it up 1, and then apply location. Should have done it in edit mode. And we just want to make sure it's sitting right on the base. And we just scale it up big. You know, we probably don't even need the top part, but you know what? I'm going to leave it for once. And we'll bring this back down. So now this is our floor. So if we look at this on the inside, there's really nothing to see here. And we'll just hit that with a blank material too. As you can see, the blank material has really become a solution to all of life's problems. And there's only 10 blank materials created, even though I've probably hit that thing probably like 30 times. But that's part of the beauty of its whole cleanup system. And in fact, I don't really see a whole lot of ground shadows happening. So we'll Alt-V, EVHQ. Oh, you know what it is we don't have a sun in here. Or we don't even have lighting. So we're actually bringing an area light. Getting a little bit of ghosting in the viewport here. That's usually the byproduct of having a background here. And we'll jump into rendered mode where it's just us and these lights. So what if we put an HDR? Theoretically, we should see nothing when we add an HDR. And I'm already seeing an HDR, so I'm already not liking what I'm seeing. Just kidding, but let's go to our HDRs, and I actually have these like really simple map of this that I've been looking at a lot lately. But I was really not seeing a lot of shadows happening with the ground here. So, or even interaction, you know, suppose we gave it a reflection. You know, maybe reflection was just all we needed. But still just something strange about this viewport here. But we'll go ahead and just let that play. And in fact, I'm going to hide the environment just so I don't have to look at this ghosting. And we'll go to look dev just so I don't have to look at any environment. And this is the result of this quick little demo. I mean, I just wanted to go through and just make a quick little Cyylinoid, and I'm seeing quickly that this is turning into a rendering tutorial. But if we just go through and just let this play out, we can see that this now plays through seamlessly without any issue. Let's see what happens if we turn off viewport denoising. It actually looks a little worse. Let's jump this down to 32. Just playing with our settings here, seeing what we got here. We press Alt-V, EVLQ, and it plays through perfectly fine without any bloom or glare. We jump to LQ, we have all the ghosting in the world, but we leave it paused on a frame, and we get a pretty nice looking little result here, except, you know, we probably put a few little sub D additions here. I'll jump this up to 8. Looks like Blender may not let me on this particular computer, but it did. And so now we actually have a very smooth background here, but whenever we let it play, it's gonna ghost. So that one's just a curiosity I'll be pondering as I lay awake in bed at night. Just kidding, I'll fall right asleep because I'll be exhausted. But I do wonder if they even meet the ground. So we bring the sphere up just a little bit. And now things are actually looking a little bit more grounded. And so I could just render this out and it would just be like a nice little sequence rendered out. However, I would probably need to deal with the lighting just a little bit more. However, that will wrap up this particular portion of the video, which was just demonstration with a Cyylinoid. And I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.